Hi, Greg Gurev, Head Sherpa here to give you some Zoom tips so that your next Zoom meeting comes off even better than previous. This video is just to give you some pointers and things that I've learned to do that seem to help make Zoom meetings run smoother. One thing that you want to consider when you're doing a Zoom meeting is to make sure that you have your video and sound so it looks good and sounds good. What you'll find is many of the laptops, the little webcams on them, aren't the greatest quality. So sometimes it pays to have a really good or an extra webcam on top. A webcam can run you from $50 to $200. The camera I'm using to record this video is a $200 Variety Logitech, and it actually records in 4K. But just about any add-on camera, $50 or more, like Logitech or another name brand, is going to give you a better picture quality than you would get otherwise. Another really important thing, you can have the best camera in the world, but if the lighting isn't good, if you don't have suitable lighting, you're going to look drab. Also, if you have lots of light coming from a window behind you, that's going to make you appear real dark. So you may want to put a shade behind you that you can draw when you're looking to do a Zoom meeting. Also, from a lighting standpoint, you can buy lighting rings, and they sit right around the camera or right next to the camera, and they illuminate your face so that you have good even lighting and it's consistent from meeting to meeting, and they're like $27 on Amazon. The other thing too is how you dress. You want to be careful not to wear shirts that have very tight patterns that can create like a moire effect, because what that'll do is it'll give a weird kind of a weird video, and it'll distract from this actual Zoom meeting. People will be looking at your clothes shifting more than what you're saying. So just wear plain clothing, or you can wear patterns, but just as long as they're not finely interlaced where you get that moire effect. Another thing you might want to consider is setting alarms, and I'll show you how you can change the alarm setting in Zoom. But just to remind you that there's a meeting coming up, it's always good to be to your meetings not only just on time, but a little bit early, especially for people who arrive. There's some people that arrive early to the meetings, and it's nice to be able to recognize that they're there and let them in so they're not just sitting in the waiting room per se. If you're like me, it's a good idea sometimes just to set an alarm on your phone. You can set an alarm to ring a few minutes before your meeting so that you're prepared and ready to go. And that's a free way of making sure that you're never late to your own meetings. Now, I've got a phone call coming in. Another thing you could consider is making sure that your phone's on mute so that it's not ringing and disrupting your meeting. From here is we're going to go into the Zoom settings so you get the best experience for your conference members. So here we go. The easiest way to change your settings is from the home menu of the Zoom application. You will go over here to the little settings icon, and up comes the window. Under General, there's a few things I'd like to point out. One would be to make sure you have this reminder turned on, and you can change the amount of minutes before the meeting starts from a reminder. If you're like me, 5 minutes is a good number, but you might want more time. Maybe it's 15 minutes that you have yourself in the habit of setting, but you can check that. But make sure it is checked. Also, a big one is integrating Zoom with Outlook. Okay, integrating Zoom with Outlook simply means that you have a button here in Outlook under the home menu, and you can actually go and schedule either an instant meeting or a regular meeting. And you'll see that Zoom will come up right in Outlook with whether you want a waiting room or not, with the password, whether you want to use your personal meeting or generate a random meeting, and also some basic settings as far as if your your video will be on when the meeting starts, as well as your participants. I like to have participant video on. I think the magic of Zoom is the fact that you can see the people you're speaking with. And so I like to encourage people to have their video on. In fact, I'll ask them to turn their video on if they have it the video muted. So here we go, and when I hit save, it'll actually pull this information into the Outlook form, and now all you have to do is your invitation to whom, and name the meeting, and you're off to the races. Oftentimes I will also delete this information here because I really just want people to use their web browser, and so that we can share video. Okay, back to our menu. The next tab of choices is your video setting, and you can see here obviously I've got my video set up. I'd recommend that you use the original ratio, which is typically a high definition 16:9 landscape looking picture. That's what people are used to, as well as check that you're using HD. HD will give a better appearance to the people that are receiving your video. I think it comes by default checked off, and you can see that now I'm letterboxed here. And you know, if you have a good camera and it supports HD, well, you should use HD. The only time maybe you wouldn't want to do that is if you're working off of a cell connection and you don't have a lot of bandwidth. But these days most people do. So I recommend that you at least make sure that it's set for HD. Also, if you have multiple cameras, make sure you're using the right camera. In this case, I have one camera attached to this computer, but if you're using a laptop and you have a webcam on top, you're going to want to choose that webcam. For audio, I happen to have on my computer a couple of audio sources. I have a Yeti microphone. I also have the microphone that comes with the Logitech camera. So it has a microphone built in. And I know the Yeti microphone has better sound. If you have multiple microphones on your computer, you should test it. Test it with a friend. See what microphone sounds better, which one has more clarity. Because just as important as a picture is the sound, almost more important in a way. And here you can also check for it to automatically adjust microphone, and you might want to even try suppressing background noise. This is a hit or miss, and sometimes it's already built into the microphone. There is no way to turn it on off. Under screen share, this is really important. You definitely want to maintain your current size. If you're doing full screen mode and you have a giant monitors like I do, it's gonna make everything seem so small for the viewer. So it's oftentimes a good reason just to maintain the current size of the window, control the size that you want. If your window's a laptop window, then yes, you could do the maximize window on that. This is an important thing. Have you ever been working in an app and then you start clicking and a window pops up and then the person says, "Oh, I can't see that." Well, that's because you have to share all the windows that would include the pop-ups that come from that application. So this is a good setting if there's going to be sub-windows to show. And then here, when you share your screen, you can have it set to automatically just share your entire desktop. However, I prefer to show all the options because sometimes I just want to show an app like Word or Excel, and I really don't want everything on my screen to be visible. Under chat, there's some really good options here as far as first to last, sort order. Have you ever been on a Zoom call and people are chatting and you didn't see that you were mentioned? Well, this is a good way. You can actually have notifications turned on. You can show unread messages at the top. You can even have a little button here that shows you the number of messages that are unread as well, like you're used to on your phone. So take some time, go through the chat options to make sure that they're optimal for the way you read your messages. Everybody's got this background and filter, and they pretty much have this handled. And you can tell I'm using, obviously, the Mount Everest background. What's important here, though, is that you use a high-quality background and something that matches either your professional image or your brand. There's nothing worse than being on a professional meeting and someone's got their Star Wars background up. Or if the background's really low quality and pixelated, it just detracts from the meeting. The whole meeting you're thinking, couldn't that person have used a better picture? Don't they care? For recording, you have the option, if you have a paid version like I do, you can have recording in the cloud, and you also have the option to store recordings locally if you want to have them on your local desktop. You'll have to note though that you have to make sure you have enough space on your hard drive for these recordings to work. And also there's some settings if you plan on editing those videos later, you might want to optimize for a third-party video editor and so on. You can play with some of the other aspects of this and to get it set the way you want it. It is definitely worth your time to spend a few minutes and make sure you've checked off your settings and you have them the way you want them. My final tip, when you're sharing your screen, you get this option. And most people don't realize this, but down here you can actually share sound. Let's say you want to have music playing and you want to have that music sound good. You can just set that button and now it'll push the sound through the other people's speakers. And if you're going to be sharing a video, it's imperative that you optimize for a video clip by clicking this button. And that way the video will not appear choppy. It'll actually come through nice and smooth. So if you've ever had a meeting where you're sharing video and it looks terrible and the sound's all out of whack, this is where you need to go. Well, hopefully you learned a few tips and tricks to how to use Zoom to its full capacity. Write me back if you find some things that I didn't cover that are tips that you enjoy using that give a better Zoom experience. From the mountain to you, take care.